June was great for the Mets, but unfortunately it ended on a sour note as the Mets dropped 2 of 3 to the Houston Astros. This is episode number 23 of the Queen's Connection, a production of Patton Sports Creative. I am your host, Andrew Patton, joined by the co-host, Corne Hogeveen. Corne, hello, happy July, as we are now officially into July. Unfortunately for the Mets, like I said, June was a great month, but those last 2 games of the month, had a little bit of left a little bit of a sour taste in our mouths.
Happy Bonilla Day, I would say. It's obviously Bobby Bonilla Day. That's a miss there, right there for you. It's was a clear opening for wishing me a happy July. No, yes, but still, even in those losses, I think um, we could see some positives. I don't think it were horrendous losses. I think mostly a big part of the losses is probably the bullpen. And we knew before this series that this could be a stretch where the bullpen might have some issues, and it showed.
Like this, the reason I don't acknowledge the Bobby Bonilla Day is because everyone, it's all over my timelines, and I have people text me about it. Like I don't really care about it. Like it is what it is. It's great job by Bobby Bonilla and his agent to get all that negotiated. I mean, it was well played by them. So you just have to give credit where credit's due. And it's not my money anyway. So why do I care if the Mets are giving the guy $1 million on July 1st till what 2035?
And I don't think Steve Cohen minds it at all.
No,
Also,
no, I
I
don't.
don't think so. It's not like we are handcuffed because of Bobby Bonilla or anything. And it's not like that the Mets are the only team to do this. So, but I knew that you probably uh, weren't happy that I mentioned it. So hence the reason I mentioned it.
Anyway, you just know me so well. You know how to play me like a fiddle. Just know what buttons to push to get me going, and I'm just off from
I'm
there.
trying. I think that's the main reason I was put on Earth, by the way.
Quite possibly. I can't think of any other reason you'd be here. What else do you do that's productive?
Ouch. Oh.
Wow. And on that note,
Wow.
and on that note, let's jump into this series against the Houston Astros that started Friday night at Citi Field. A 7-2 win for the New York Mets to open things up. Got back to the or got over the 500 mark in this game. So it was just positive vibes all around. Uh, Obviously, it's weird because this game was probably highlighted by the post game concert by Jose Iglesias rather than the game itself. But that just showed like the vibes that the Mets are were experiencing, and it was just a party atmosphere at that ballpark that night. But let's focus more on the baseball here than the club seed. Let's talk about Jose Quintana's outing here. 4 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, all of which were earned, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. Um, so I just found that to be a very weird outing for Jose Quintana because you look at the 7 strikeouts in 4 innings, you can say that's really good. Any starting pitcher, with that rate, that's really solid. But there's a reason he only went 4 innings. He did have 3 walks. There were 6 hits, so there was some traffic on the bases. And in a stretch where the Mets really need to get length from their starters, um, they were not able to get that. To be fair, no, really, other than Sunday's game, they didn't get any length from any of their starters in this homestand. Um, but let's just focus on Katana. What did you make of it? I thought the stat line, like the 7 Ks, I thought, it's a little misleading, I think. I mean, you can't, I guess 7 strikeouts can't be misleading, but like you see 7 strikeouts in 4 innings, you think his stuff was really good. I didn't think his stuff was particularly great in this game. I know I might be being a little bit more harsh than you might be for Quintana, uh, but I think it has to do more, like I said, with this stretch where they really need length and they're not getting it right now. Um, but that's just my opinion on Katana. What did you think about him?
I think it was exactly what the Mets didn't need. Um, I mean, in the stretches earlier, over the last weeks. We had off days. This was the first start with a bullpen, which misses a guy and misses some key pieces as well. So not only missing Edwin Diaz, but also missing Sean Reed Foley and Drew Smith. I mean, I think the Quintana outing is probably a big part of why we maybe lost the other two, because you have to get get others in because the bullpen wasn't rested. So although Quintana limited the damage, was just 2 runs, could have been way worse. That's all true, and it could all be true, but it was exactly what the Mets didn't need. I'd rather have him give up 5 and go 7 or 6 than having him allow 2 over 4 innings. And I think it showed in the 2 games we lost, that it's that was exactly what we didn't need out of Jose Quintana. And yes, 7 strikeouts is good. I think it's also, when looking at him, he was, just it wasn't necessarily that he missed badly. He was just off deep counts. So I think these strikeouts mostly were called third strikes. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's what in my head. And I think that's partly because he was, just missing a lot. That when he hit the corners, that hitters were a little bit surprised or not expecting those pitches to hit the corners. So I think he was just off. I don't think he was terrible. Um, Although I do believe that right now it was just not good because also the situation the Mets were in.
Yep. So going 4 innings, he had to rely on the bullpen to finish it off, and they certainly did their job in this game. Ottavino gave you a scoreless inning. Daniel Nunez gave you 2 scoreless. Diekman a scoreless inning. Reed Garrett gave you a scoreless inning in the ninth, and we'll probably get into some of the bullpen usage maybe. But before we get into that, let's just talk about this lineup on Friday night. Lindor with a multi-hit game. The big one was Jeff McNeil going 3 for 4. I know one of the hits was a little bit of a cheap one because just the miscommunication. Because we just had to have Jeremy Pena on the broadcast talking about it. But whenever Jeff McNeil goes 3 for 4, it's going to stand out just with the way things have transpired this year for him. Obviously, had the big 3-run homer. Alonso had a home run in this game as well. Tyrone Taylor. So, they were playing OMG, throwing the hands up in the air the whole night against a pretty good starter in Blanco. So it was just another guy to add to the list of starters the Mets have hit around. Um, but let's just focus on McNeil because, like I said, the season has not gone the way anyone has wanted it to go for him. Uh, but you've heard or on the broadcast, or maybe you've seen it a little bit. Does it look like at least some of the contact he's made is a little bit more like the Jeff McNeil that we've seen, or do you think this is more kind of, you know, no, it's just a good day for him, and then he kind of reverts back to what we've seen this year. Where do you stand with this recent stretch of games for Jeff McNeil?
I don't think I personally don't see a lot of difference. I want to. I hope that that saw it, but like you said, the 3 for 4 day, um, one of the 3 hits should have been a pop up. I still see a lot of soft grounders and balls hit softly in the air. So I'm not necessarily thinking different about Jeff McNeil because of his Friday. Um, it's a tough year for Jeff, and yeah, last year wasn't great. And there are just players who are knocking on the door, so it's not like Jeff McNeil should be, a guy that thinks, oh well, I can suck because I still have a job for the Mets. I think he might quietly, when one of those players in AAA is ready, be on the outside looking in very soon.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing with McNeil because you have a day like Friday where you want to believe that maybe he's starting to turn the corner, but then you have a game like he did on Sunday where he takes an offer and has a couple strikeouts, so or hits the ball on the ground a couple times. So it's been a very strange, odd year for Jeff McNeil. Unfortunately, hasn't really gotten a solid stretch going. Um, and I know maybe the Mets have survived without that, but if he could get onto a good stretch, it's just gonna be so much better for this team and for himself personally. So obviously, we're hopeful Jeff McNeil can turn things around. Whether that's the case or not, it remains to be seen. So the Mets won Friday's game 7-2. Turn the page to Saturday, and Tyler McGill on the mound for the Mets going up against Framber Valdez. Another good start Astros put out there. The Mets were not able to salvage this one. A 9-6 loss to the Astros, highlighted by some late inning troubles. But once again, we could say those troubles were in thanks to a not so great outing from their starting pitcher, McGill. They pushed him as far as he could, so he did go 5 1/3, but 4 runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. The home he allowed a home run. It was just very disappointing for Tyler McGill um, because he had that great start against the Dodgers to end May, and so you're feeling a little bit good about McGill, maybe coming in just hopefully holding down the spot in the rotation. And then in the month of June, it was just not a good month for Tyler McGill. Personally, he started 5 games. 2-2 was his record, if you care about that. He had a 7.43 ERA this month, a 1.74 WHIP, 23 innings pitched. He had 13 walks. That's not good. Um, 27 hits allowed. So, um, something we had seen all this month with McGill really just kind of no, it just all came out in this last start. The Mets gave him a 6-1 lead with a big second inning from Valdez. So you're sitting there pretty just hoping McGill can just keep the Astros lined up down. But the Astros responded for 3 in the fourth to make it a 6-4 game. Um, so we talk about Quintana not giving the Mets what they needed. Uh, Unfortunately, Tyler McGill wasn't able to do that either.
No, definitely not. And oh, man, those numbers in June are not good, especially if you consider that Christian Scott and Jose Buto are in AAA, and I think McGill is optioned. So yeah, obviously because he was optioned. Sorry about that. That was a bit of a brain fart on my part. So yeah, it was. I did think his stuff looked a lot sharper than it looked in his previous outing. I think he had a little bit more movement. It wasn't as flat. I think his control was a little bit better. But again, that bad inning, I think you get a 6-1 lead, and that bad inning, it's just McGill just doesn't seem to be able to get the best out of him when he needs to. Or it's maybe partly because hitters have faced him, and then he as goes to the second time to the order. He had that one outing, I think, where he allowed 5 runs in the first inning, and he was okay after that. So it's just when he gets in trouble, he just isn't able to get the best out of him, because after he allows some runs, or before he allowed some runs, I think before the 3 runs he allowed, he only allowed that solo shot by Singleton that probably wouldn't have been out on another day. It was a little bit wind aided, if I remember correctly. So it's weird. Is it the pressure? He doesn't. To me, it doesn't seem like a guy that falters under pressure. But I do believe that when you allow big innings to happen, it's probably not the best spot you want to be in. Um, so it's weird because I did thought he looked a lot better. than last time out. I think last time out was just a total off day, and this time out, his stuff looked, better than maybe his outing eventually became.
It's something that we've talked about here. I'm always mentioning it on the chat. I'm sure every time you see this message come up, you just roll your eyes, be like, "Yes, Andrew, we understand this. You talked about it all the time." But his inability when he gets two strikes on guys to put them away, which is weird for a guy with such high velocity. We know the splitters come along; it's still a work in progress, but he's been using that as an out pitch. Um, and it's not like he's down 2-0 and he fights his way back to get back to two strikes. He's up like 1-2, 0-2 on these guys, and then he just can't find the strike zone, or then he just leaves one over the plate for the batter. It's just a weird thing for, like I said, a guy with that velocity to not have the ability to really put guys away. And you could say, well, he had six strikeouts in the five and a third, so he was putting guys away, but it's more in those moments where he like really needs this just to put a band-aid on it, get out of the inning and move on. It's at those times, and that's why it stands out to me probably more than maybe to some other people, but it's just a weird thing with McGill.
Yeah, he reminded me of John Maine. I said in his last podcast, another guy who tend to not be able to, you know, strike people out with at that time uh, high velocity. I think at this time it was a little bit different when John Maine was in the league. I think he threw fairly hard for pitchers in that day and age. So same with McGill. Maybe his secondary stuff isn't necessarily as sharp. Maybe his fastball is flat-ish, like it was with John Maine. Probably Baseball Savant is a good page to look that up. Just out of the top of my head, thinking about reasons why it could be with Tyler McGill, because overall, I think his secondary stuff has definitely gotten better, but the results stayed the same. And I think you're right. I think you're onto something with, hitters. Hitters are able to waste maybe the good pitches or the difficult pitches from Tyler McGill and wait for a mistake. And definitely this month is definitely something that caught my eye a couple of weeks ago and your eye as well. And I thought he did a little bit better this outing, but yeah, still, it's still an issue. His overall swing and miss stuff in big moments definitely, yeah, turns out that he has trouble doing that, and I don't know why. It's sometimes you see him mow down a lineup in parts of the game easier, and then all of a sudden a big inning comes. It's just so weird for me because I think he has more in him than what he is showing.
So something we've talked about on this podcast, this is be the last little thing we touch on with Tyler McGill because there are other things to talk about from this game and whatnot. But we've always talked about McGill potentially being a guy that could be a bullpen arm. He was optioned to AAA Syracuse before Sunday's game, which I don't think was much of a surprise to anyone, figuring the Mets need fresh arms in the bullpen, and he's an optionable guy. And he, like we said earlier, wasn't necessarily pitching well this month with his 7.43 ERA. Is there a possibility in this stint in AAA where they maybe tell Dick Scott, who's the manager in AAA, uh, give McGill a couple outings out of the bullpen, or do you think that's more of a off-season transition thing, assuming McGill is still on the New York Mets coming into camp in 2025?
Oof, I think this is a pretty tough question. I see this a lot that Tyler McGill as a bullpen arm could be pretty good. Um, at some point, Tyler McGill is part of or at least partly part of the rotation for a couple of years, and he has never been. Um, yes, he has his flashes of being a good starter, but overall, I think you could you could say mediocre, maybe a little bit less than average. And I think with the Mets starting pitchers they have and that are coming up, I don't necessarily think you need him as one of your starting pitching arms. We've seen with Buto. I think Buto is definitely better and more deserving of the spot right now. Scott, obviously. Um, so could be, could why not? Why not give it a try? Maybe with that new splitter, him, maybe uh, him being able to drop one pitch out of his arsenal that makes the others maybe better. I don't know. Give it a shot. Why not? Nothing to lose there, in my opinion, because it's not like you are losing a number three guy or something like that right now.
Yeah, and I think some of the rationale behind potentially making that move are some guys you just mentioned, Buto, Scott. Um, we know Tidwell struggled a little bit since his promotion to AAA, but that's a guy the organization is high on. Same with Brandon Sprout; he's in AA. But the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of guys in the pipeline that, when they get to the major league level, and if they're successful as starters, they're easily jumping McGill on the depth chart. So, you know,
Yeah, it's happening already. So I think right now you could say that he's our seventh starter, but just because of how it went, he was still in the rotation. But I think Peterson is obviously better. Severino, Senga, don't even count Senga, Scott, Buto, Manaya, all those guys right now are better. Maybe you could even make the case of Adrian Hauser because I'm not a firm believer that he's only good in the bullpen. I just think he found his sinker and he could be, that spot starter guy as well.
well, you mentioned Hauser as a reliever. Let's get to the other relievers because the eighth inning in this game was just a complete meltdown. Four walks between Diekman and Reed Garrett. Garrett didn't record an out when he came in for Jake Diekman. There was a wild pitch, scored a run. It was just an awful, awful eighth inning for the Mets. And uh, I just want to touch on this Reed Garrett thing because I thought it was interesting. The night before, he was used in the ninth inning in a 7-2 ball game. So the Mets are up five. Um, and there was some traffic on him, allowed a couple hits, but guy out of it, no scot free. But they came back to him. I'm just wondering, was I don't want to say like, well, because he pitched the night before, he shouldn't have pitched this game, whatever. But was there really much of a reason to use Reed Garrett in the 5-run lead on Friday? Did that have any effect on Saturday? Perhaps. It was. I just thought it was weird to use him in a 5-run game on Friday night. But I don't know at this point either with the bullpen situation if the Mets are going to treat a 5-run lead like they would a 3-run lead or a 2-run lead. I don't know. I don't know if that's a factor or anything or not. I just thought it was weird, and I didn't know if that had potentially any effect on his Saturday outing.
Could be, maybe not. Maybe it was, but these days I do believe that with the technology they have ways to see um, if you watch some former MLB players vlog, which we probably shouldn't mention because we get cancelled. But that guy um, has shown in his vlogs um, the way they uh, monitor the the amount of readiness. I don't know another word for it, but and I have no doubt in my mind that the Mets are using that too. So he was probably ready and good to go for an outing. Um, but maybe his control was a little bit off. So you could say that it maybe was part of the reason for. him going back to back. I'm also not necessarily aware of his numbers. If he goes back to back, maybe it's something he doesn't like. I know with Adam Ottavino, it's not something that he loves, according to the numbers. So, but I don't know of that off my top of my head. If there's a case to be made for it, there could be a case to be made for it. On the other hand, um, his control was off, but I also think, and I know that Bregman at bat, where he was able to foul off a pretty tough splitter and then get them hit. So also give credit to Red Hot Astros who were able to battle against some good pitches. And Diekman, we always know that this is a possibility. That he walks people, it's a possibility. Reed Garrett also has a little bit of that walk issue. Also, the way he pitches with that splitters down and sliders, he tries to get hitters to fish, and I think it's very possible that hitters are adjusting to that. So could just be that.
This is probably a weird question, but it was a thought I had, um, driving home from the game on
You,
Sunday.
you don't you don't need to start with that because
Is it already kind of naturally assumed my questions are weird and
yeah,
okay, okay, so
sometimes
I don't need the
no.
preamble, I don't need any of that. But you look at this Mets bullpen, and particularly guys like Ottavino, Diekman, and I agree with Reed Gary. I think he's got that, you know, he's got that thing in him like Diekman does, where when he's on, he's good. When he's not, he's bad. um, and that's I know that's you could say that for like the majority of bullpens in Major League Baseball. It's hard to find guys that are consistent. It's just how bullpens are. But do you think the Mets maybe have too many guys like that, where that's like you're just kind of sitting there with your fingers crossed that hopefully Diekman's got his good stuff today or Ottavino's got his good stuff today. Do you think the Mets have too many guys like that in their bullpen?
Uh, yes, but that's mainly not how they built it. I mean, if you looked at the bullpen from the start, that was definitely not the case. We had Brooks Raley, we had uh, Adam Ottavino, who was better. We had Edwin Diaz, who you don't necessarily. He is not in that class, in my opinion. Still not, by the way, even in his bad month. So the way the Mets built the bullpen, they built it with a guy like Diekman as their, sixth inning guy. Maybe the lefty when Brooks Raley isn't available. But unfortunately, the Mets have a lot of issues in their bullpen, in their personnel. Smith also a guy who I believe is pretty consistent. Consistently what you have out of Drew Smith. Yes, he will allow some home runs um, somewhere, but overall, I think he's solid. So he's to me a solid middle reliever. But you miss your probably your best two relievers right now in Brooks Raley and Edwin Diaz. So not the way it was built. It turned out that with some injuries that right now that's the case. Yes, but I think every team would have that if you miss your two best relievers.
I have a player comp for Reed Garrett. I don't think Reed Garrett is anywhere near this player, from a where he could go, whatever. But does he remind you at all a little bit about Familia, where when the high velo, the splitter, or the like? Is there any like I was just thinking like because he's now in these high leverage situations and like I was just kind of thinking like this a player comp for him and Familia kind of came to mind for me. What would you agree with that? Disagree?
I do believe that uh, Familia had
What like
he had
like
he
Familia
had
was like the 15
yeah
16. He was like one of the best closers in
really
baseball. This is kind of
yes
maybe more like the second tenure Familia.
yeah Reed Garrett is Jerry's Familia when you buy him from Wish. That's how you want to say the Wish version of
The
Jeremy.
discount version.
Well, if we gotta count discount version of people as comps, all right, it's decent. Although I do want to add that Reed Garrett's fastball isn't close to Jerry's Familia.
No,
It's sinker.
no.
And the sinker was just plain nasty. I think the sinker was still the number one pitch for for Familia in his career, and Garrett is trying to limit that pitch. So I do believe that that's a pretty big difference in how they use their stuff.
Yeah. Well, before we get to Sunday's game, uh, we should, because we've been talking bad about the bullpen in this game, but we should give credit to Ty Adcock. Uh, 1 2/3 scoreless, just one hit, one strikeout. So if there was a positive, uh, pitching wise from Saturday, it was Ty Adcock's Mets debut. So have to give credit when credit is due.
He did better than his other former Seattle friend in the bullpen right now.
Well, I guess that's a good transition to Sunday, perhaps, where the Mets were looking to take the finale, win the series against the Houston Astros. Unfortunately, that did not happen. The Mets lost 10-5 in 11 innings. This was a game starred by Luis Severino. We'll start with Sevy here because maybe he said he thought his stuff was pretty dominant in his post game presser. He thought his stuff was good. He's kind of giving the Astros some credit for fighting off some pitches and whatnot. But he gave exactly what the Mets wanted. You talked earlier about Quintana. You would rather get 6 and have him allow 5 rather than the 4 and allow 2. Well, in this game, Severino gave the Mets 7. He allowed 4. The strikeout numbers were back down. He only had 3 in this outing. Uh, but the 7 innings is so huge. I mean, we just can't stress that enough. So maybe not Sevy's best stuff, even though he said he thought his stuff was pretty good. But no, when you're in this situation, the Mets are got to get length, no matter how good or bad a guy is. And tip of the cap to Severino, he gave the Mets exactly what they needed.
Yeah, it's not like somebody said this on Thursday or Friday when we had our podcast that this is what. Unfortunately, it not ended with a win, but it's. I don't remember who that was, by the way, who said that Seffi is gonna
I
be a
believe I
bit
believe it
helmet.
was I believe it was Max the dog.
Oh right. Oh yeah. Oh, it could be true. Could be true.
I can't give you
Uh,
credit. Sorry.
but yeah, well, he was outstanding. You noticed something, and you talked to me because you were at the game. You stayed there until after the rain delay. Kudos to you for doing that. By the way, I haven't watched the last 2 innings. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time, and I wasn't able to stay up until the game was resumed. Obviously, after seeing the final score this morning, I wasn't necessarily mad at that. But kudos to you for staying. I think if you are there, I don't know, we have talked about this before, but I think if you have the opportunity to stay, you should stay. So good on you that you did. But you noticed that he threw a lot of fastballs. He didn't use his sweeper a lot, and I do believe that was part of the plan. Um, to get quicker outs, to throw the four seamer and the two seamer, and get some quicker outs and get deeper into the ball game, and not trying hitters trying to fish or throw pitches way out of the zone and trying hitters trying to. He wasn't wasting pitches. Let me say it like that. And I think that was the big reason was definitely, in my opinion, go deep. And then still he didn't go 8 or didn't start the 8, which maybe I would have liked the Mets to give him that 8th inning because he was at 97 or 79, something about that. I didn't necessarily were aware, but he had a low enough pitch count that he could have gone the 8th. So yeah, but still, you definitely take that in this situation. You take the 4 runs. I don't care about the lack of strikeouts because I think um, that's not what he wanted to do in this outing. Um, and there were some hits that were fairly hit hard, but there were also some hits where Luis Severino was a little bit more unlucky than we were, especially in the first seven-ish innings.
Yeah, I mean the Mets. I sent it to you that second inning. Stewart, Vientos, Torrens all made outs that inning with exit velos of 105 or better. And then the Astros in what was it, the fourth inning? I want to say I should know. I have this the box score right in front of me. Um, they got a couple cheap hits. The little broken bat, got it in dunkers that find the space. The Astros were able to find the space. The Mets unfortunately weren't um, in this game. But no, but the Mets did get down 4-0, but they fought their way back. Uh, Vientos had a big two out 2-run double in the sixth. Nimmo the big 2-run homer in the seventh, his 100th of his major league career. We'll talk about Nimmo in a second. Um, but overall, for the Mets offense, they were getting no hit. This was a bullpen game for the Astros, um, and they just weren't able to find some success against some starters. And overall, the overall picture, when you get 5 hits in 11 innings of baseball, you're not really going to win that often anyway. So the Mets did have their chances to win this game. We know some of the 10 hits the Astros had were not necessarily sustainable hits at a major league level. But when you have 5 hits in 11 innings of baseball, the numbers will probably say that you're you're unlikely to win the game. So the Mets offense was not necessarily at their best in this game, I thought.
No, that's true. Obviously, 5 hits isn't necessarily a lot, but I do I don't necessarily think that the bats were bad. Obviously we saw two very clutch hits in Vientos and Nimmo to get back into that game. Um, so I'm not necessarily that I let me put it this way. It's not necessarily that after that game saw 5 hits, and yes, I only saw until the rain delay, so I can't say what necessarily happened after. But until that point, I felt like um, confidence for the Nets series in this offense. With a good game against Framber Valdez, yes, we faced a bullpen game, but I do believe we hit some rockets right at people. Tyrone Taylor later in the game hit that rocket to the outfield, which was caught. It was just we're hitting some bullets that were caught, and it could turn out way different if some of those were fell, and that's what we actually saw with the Astros. So I still have a lot of confidence for the upcoming series in at least the offense and the starters. Maybe a little bit less in the bullpen, but I do think we can make a nice move heading back to the wild card hunt and hopefully finally at some point get a wild card spot in our possession for once, because we are close to it for a long time right now, but we haven't, you know, climbed that mountain all the way to the top. So I'm hopeful with the schedule coming up that we are able to do it.
So you talk about Severino's pitch count. He was taken out with 79 pitches, 50 strikes. So, um, he
Yeah,
was
that
in the zone. Um,
was exactly what we needed.
yep. Hauser 2 innings for out of the bullpen looked pretty good. Did have that some traffic every now and then, uh, but nothing came around. Did have the big strikeout to end an inning. Um, but the Mets weren't able to get a run in the eighth. Had to wait a while till the ninth inning started. Didn't get a run in the ninth, so we went to extra innings. Uh, and with the bottom part of the order coming up for the Astros, the Mets went to Adam Ottavino. The free runner did score. And then in the bottom half of that inning, because the free runner was the only one that scored that inning, the Mets got their free runner home thanks to Brandon Nimmo. Um, but so the Mets had a chance to walk it off, weren't able to do it. JD struck out. Alonso was intentionally walked. Bader hit a little chopper to second. and Vientos made a ground out. So we go to the 11th inning, and this is just the situation the Mets are in. They got to use guys who's ever fresh in AAA gets a chance. And then today, or in that game, it was Matt Festa, and unfortunately for Matt, not a great Mets debut, unlike Ty Adcock. Pitched the whole inning, 4 hits, 5 runs, only 4 were earned because obviously the free runner is not an earned run. Had a walk, a strikeout. Um, it's a tough spot to be put in. No, I don't want to sound like I'm a Festa apologist. But that's a tough spot to come in for your first major league outing of the year. Um, just didn't have it. Just wasn't very good. Just wasn't solid. No, nothing
Yeah.
much more to say than that. It's unfortunate. Uh, but with the way the things have transpired for the Mets, it was what they had to do. I will ask the question though. Not that it would make much of a difference, but we talk about the bullpen usage. With Reed Garrett being pitched Friday night in a 5-run game, they had Ottavino pitched to the bottom half of the order in the 10th inning, and in uh, Festa's outing, it started out with Alvarez. They intentionally walked Alvarez, which I was pretty much fine. I was fine with walking Alvarez to start the inning there. I don't want any part of him. But they had Festa come in to pitch more to the heart of the order. If you were Mendoza, would you have maybe swapped that around perhaps? Not that, maybe it would make much of a difference, but maybe you give Festa, the likes of uh Jeremy Pena, who we know is a good player, but hasn't been at his best at times this year. Mauricio Dubon, guys like that, rather than okay, you're going to pitch to Yiner Diaz and Jake Myers just having a career offensive season. Would you maybe flip flop those guys?
Not in that time. I would if it was the 6th, the 7th or 8th in that time. But um, I think it's in extra innings is you get your better um, available arm earlier so you can walk it off. That's for me the main reason. And so yes, it's completely logical. It went this way, and the Mets were just ran out of solid arms to bring in. But I do believe that it's the better way to go. That you go for. Um, I don't think you think that way in extra innings. I just think we have to get through our inning with our best available arm, and hopefully my team scores more runs than um, my best arm at that moment gives up. So no, I'm not against that at all.
Well, the Mets did end up losing the game. I think that the wind just kind of got taken out of their sails there with that inning that Festa had, and maybe a little bit. They lost some of that wind when Nimmo doubled to start that 11th inning, and they weren't able to bring home that winning run with nobody out at that point. So the Mets do drop below 500 again. They're now 40-41. Uh, we talked about Nimmo earlier. We can get to this before we dive into the minor league minute, whatever. Uh, just a little silly thing for just to talk about because Nimmo hit his 100th career home run yesterday, which is great. Congratulations to him. It's funny though because it's actually 1 year today, July 1st, or 1 year. No, it was on today back in 2016. I don't know why I said 1 year.
Same.
That's crazy. It was actually 8 years ago today. He hit his first career home run off Jason Hamill against the Cubs, which I was there for. So it's just funny to be there for his first home run and then 8 years later to be there for his 100th career home run. It's just funny how things, work out that way. Me being having a weird man crush on Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah. Congratulations to Brandon Nimmo, but we don't care about that. Congratulations to Andrew for being at the ballpark right there.
Well, you were the one who's like, "Oh, we should mention it on the podcast. We should mention it on the podcast."
Yeah, yeah. No, but it's a fun fact. I just thought of that one in my head because you said congratulations to Brandon Nimmo. I think, oh, that's now I get it. Now I got it. But no, it's fun. You're a big Brandon Nimmo fan, so And it's not like you have season tickets or anything. You are not that close to the ballpark to be able to visit every game. So um, yeah, it's a fun little note that you can always share that you were at his first and his 100, and maybe I would say if he gets close to 200, you should be around in the ballpark because we know it's gonna happen then.
Well, Brandon Nimmo is. I think I'll make the declaration right now on this show. Brandon Nimmo is probably now my all-time favorite Met.
All right. Wow.
I mean, I love David Wright, I do, but I think just to be a little different than everyone, because you watch like, hi, I'm John from Jackson Heights. My favorite all-time Mets, David Wright. Whatever. It's like I'll be a little different here. I'll go with Brandon
Yeah,
Nimmo as my all-time favorite New York Met. So
you sure are. Good on you.
no. I saw what you did there. I'm just gonna ignore
I
it.
did nothing. I
I said I'm a little different. Oh, you sure are.
didn't.
I pick up on stuff like that. I'm not as dumb as I look. Uh, well,
Well,
anyway,
refocus minor league minute, I
my
guess.
well, before we get to the minor league minute, wild card update, because like you talk about, the Mets have been close but haven't gotten there. Current situation: the Mets are 40 and 41, 2 games back of the St. Louis Cardinals for that last wild card spot. They're a half game up on Arizona, who's right behind them. So the Mets are sandwiched between those two teams. The Mets had they had an opportunity on Saturday to get that wild card spot because or at least get a tie for it because the Cardinals lost that day to the Reds. So the Mets could have been in a spot for a wild card, uh, but that loss on Saturday, they weren't able to do so. But the Mets, they're still right there in the thick of things. Um, it just kind of stinks that teams in front of them have been one. They both took 2 of 3 this weekend, the Padres and the Cardinals, while the Mets only took 1 of 3 from the Astros. So there's a little bit more of separation there. But um, this is the stretch coming up for the Mets that's really gonna, I don't want to say make or break the season, but they're games, they're big games. There's no other way to put it. They're big games coming up for the Mets. So, but before we get into those said big games, let's talk about the minor leagues because we know there's some red hot bats down on the farm.
Red hot bats, red hot pitching. Mostly where we talk about, at least in this minor league minute, mostly the good things. So, Dominica's Summer League Mets, Vladdy Gomez, 18-year-old center fielder, has struggled since being signed, had a good day on Friday, going 2 for 3 with a double and a triple. Alex Acosta drove in 3 in a 2 for 4 day on that day as well. Good outing for Johan Moreno from Venezuela. He allowed just 1 hit and 1 run, striking out 6. Now he has 17 strikeouts in 13 innings with a nice 1.08 whip. The over the Asa just keeps impressing, now hitting 315 on the season. Kever Garcia also keeps hitting. He went 2 for 4 on Friday and Saturday, having an 877 OPS. Joshua Murillo was tremendous over 5 hitless innings. He walked 3 and struck out 4. He lowered his ERA to 1.64. Emilio Obispo pitched well over 5 innings, allowing 2 runs but just 1 earned. He struck out 7. He lowered his ERA also to 1.64. And Jendrik Cornelia, who I obviously like not because of the last name, also from Curacao, so he's eligible to pitch for the Netherlands. Pitched well with 2 scoreless frames. Has a 0.90 ERA with 14 strikeouts over 10 innings. And I see you there, and I know what you're gonna say. But it's 80-year-old lefty from the Dutch islands. Go ahead, Andrew.
Aren't Curacao like fake Dutch people?
Well, my friend Killian said that they are not, because I always tell people that they are fake Dutch people, fake Dutch guys, but it's an whole. I thought that they were like used to be um, colonists, if I say that correctly, so that we used to, you know, yeah, I don't know how to say that, but I hope that people understand. But they actually are still. So still our king is still also the king for that country. So then it's really part of the Netherlands. I always thought it was different,
I'm
but
still gonna
yes,
I'm still
it's
gonna call
pretty
them fake
far.
Dutch people
You can call them fake Dutch people.
because I just want to
It's
piss
still
people off.
you can go ahead. For all those Dutch people that are listening are now angry.
All right, back on track now.
Yes, Florida complex leaf, Daverson or Daverosen Gutierrez. You probably know why I said it that way. Had a nice stateside debut with a double in a 1-for-2 day. Congrats to Jake Satella, 2023 16th rounder, for hitting his first pro home run. Wellington Aracena had arguably his best outing of the year with 4 scoreless innings. He allowed 3 walks but struck out 7. This outing comes after allowing 8 earned runs over his previous 6 and 2/3 innings of work. He was the main guy in a combined no-hitter. Joseph Jabor pitched 2, striking out 4, and Brian Barreto finished it off with a 7-inning no-hitter. Both Aaron Cena and Jabor hit 97 on the gun, and I read today that Jabor has been promoted to St. Lucie. Talking about St. Lucie, calling Hauk with a big day, going 3 for 5 to help St. Lucie to a big comeback win. After being down 8-0, they won 10-8. Multi-hit days for Boston Barrow, Willie Vanas in the comeback victory. Starling Mercado homered in the 6th. St. Lucie bullpen through 6 hitless innings. Shintaro Fujinami pitched a perfect frame to get that St. Lucie Mets a nice comeback win. And Joel Diaz has been up and down since returning from Tommy John surgery, which is obviously logical. He pitched well on Sunday, going 5 innings of 1-run ball, allowed just 2 hits and 3 walks. Brooklyn, Nick LaRusso just keeps hitting. He hit his 11th home run on Friday in a 3 RBI game. Dakota Hawkins was tremendous, going 6 innings, allowing just 2 or 3 hits without issuing a walk. He struck out 5. Sidearmer Josh Heika went 3 perfect with 4 strikeouts. He has a 1.77 ERA. For the 27-year-old veteran in the Mets minor league system, he's been there for a long, long time. Jesus Baez hit his first home run as a Cyclone. Good start for the young Baez in Brooklyn. Wilfredo Lara hit his 3rd of the season in 3 for 4 day on Saturday. Talented young utility player is having a difficult season. Nick Morabito went 4 for 5 yesterday with 2 RBIs. Binghamton, Nolan McLean had a good outing, but still dropped to 0-5 with the Rumble Ponies. He went 5 innings, allowing 2 runs, 1 earned, 4 hits, and a walk. He struck out 5. Luckily, a good outing for the struggling McLean in Double-A. The Rumble Ponies scored just 1 run over 14 innings in a doubleheader split versus Portland. The one run was enough to win one of the 2 games, and it came on Ryan Clifford's solo home run. Clifford is now hitting 178 with an 828 OPS after his home run. Justin Jarvis pitched well again, going 4 2/3 scoreless. He allowed 5 hits and a walk with 5 strikeouts and lowered his Double-A ERA to 2.90. Syracuse catcher Austin Allen hit a grand slam on Friday, driving in 5 total runs. He has been very good since returning from injury with a 929 OPS. Rylan Bannon homered for the 13 times this year. And sorry, but I again forgot to write up the OPSs for Bannon and Ritter. I bet that Bannon has increased his lead if I saw all the box scores. So I have to give you kudos there. Besides your loss on fantasy this week, you need that. Jose Buto just keeps pitching extremely well this year. Another good outing as he went 7 innings of 2-run ball. Wilton Ramos had a difficult weekend. He allowed 2 runs twice. Carlos Cortez is red hot. He homered twice on Saturday, hitting a huge homer in the 10th. He's hitting 378, 417, and 711 in June. So that's a pretty decent stretch line, I would say. Another player who is red hot in June is Luis Angel Acuna, who homered on the first pitch on Saturday. Pablo Reyes also keeps hitting the ball. well with a 3-for-5 day and a homer on Saturday, and he also homered on Sunday. And finally, Joey Lucchesi pitched well, allowing 2 runs in 6 innings with 8 strikeouts.
Rylan Banyan has a 869 OPS. Nice. Luke Ritter has a 838 OPS.
Yeah, I told you that the gap was probably a little bit bigger because I didn't necessarily notice that Ritter had something good to mention, and Bannon did. So yes, it's a little bit. I think it's probably the biggest gap since we did this, or I did this. I have to say, because you had nothing to do with it.
No, you declared war.
Oh, yeah,
So this is
I'm losing the war right now.
well. I mean, this is also what you get for bringing up the fact I lost in fantasy baseball this week. But I'm still in first place, so I'm still looking down
Yes,
on you.
one game up. So I think I'm now second.
Yes, I believe you were in a tie for second, but I think you might be ahead.
Yeah, I have more points.
Yeah. So, well, the Mets are in DC for a 4-game series, the start of a big stretch of games against teams bidding for that National League wild card spot. It starts tonight in Washington. A 6:45 first pitch. I believe they're all 6:45 except for the 4th of July. Battle of lefties tonight. David Peterson goes for the Mets against Mackenzie Gore. Tuesday, Sean Manaea takes the mound. Another battle of lefties at 6:45. He'll be going up against DJ Hers, who the Mets saw in his major league debut. Uh, and then on Wednesday, that is still TBD for the Mets because that would have been the Tyler McGill spot, but obviously he was optioned so they could get some bullpen arms. So uh, there's rumblings of that it's probably going to be Christian Scott who could get that start, but still TBD at the moment. It is for sure, though, at least on MLB.com, that Mitchell Parker, another lefty, a lot of lefties in here for the Nationals in this series, will get the start for them. And then 4th of July, an 11:05 a.m. start time. TBD for the Mets, but I believe if things shook out, that would be Jose Quintana going up against Jake Irvin for the Washington Nationals. So um, Irvin will be the only right.
Lefty galore.
Yeah. Well, this leads us to our uh, player of the series predictions. Um, a lot of lefties. You're
Ooh.
picking the batter this week. Is it going to be a right-handed bat?
Yeah, obviously. But hey, we also always did pitching first, so don't give it to me, Andrew. It's your turn.
Well, since there's only 2 confirmed starters for the Mets, because I'm thinking along the same lines as you, the Mets need length from their starters with this current bullpen situation. And between David Pearson and Sean Manaea, who's going to be that guy, they both have had their issues a little bit with walks and you know not getting deep into games. But if there's someone between the two, I'll go with Sean Manaea, which is I know it's shocking for the David Peterson lover that I am. I'll go with Sean Manaea to give the Mets some length. I'm going to say at least 6 1/3 innings pitched in his outing.
All right, so you're making a little bit extra, extra interesting. All right. Um, I'm gonna go with Jose Iglesias, who's gonna probably have 3 starts coming off his. He's in great vibes with his "Oh My God" being the number one streamed on iTunes, number one Latin song, also being aired in the Seattle Mariners stadium. I saw
Oh,
before the game,
I didn't see that.
so that's pretty cool of them. So it's total vibes for Jose Iglesias, and with 3 lefties, he's gonna help the Mets a couple of probably in their 3 games in a row as well, which probably helps him as well to get some rhythm going. So Jose Iglesias, oh my God, let's take
Well,
him.
it worked for me last week when I picked Iglesias, not only because of just the concert, but in the game he started, he had 3 hits. So Why
He's
not?
been pretty darn good.
Pretty darn good. And before we get out of here, let's go back to this Brandon Nimmo thing because it just went out while you were doing your minor league minute. I was doing some stuff on my computer, and this article popped up. It was Brandon Nimmo talking about his 100th career home run and all that stuff. He said, "No, when I first came up, I wasn't considered a home run hitter, more of a slap hitter. And honestly, when I came up, a lot of people considered me to be a fourth or fifth outfielder." So Brandon Nimmo says, "Screw you to all the people who say he was a fourth and fifth outfielder. We were right, you and I, from day one. I'm Brandon Nimmo. This guy could play every day. We knew he was a maybe not this no capable not he wasn't capable of doing this, but we knew he was a solid major leaguer, not just some fourth, fifth outfielder like New York talk radio said he was when he first came up." So Brandon Nimmo says to all you people who say he was a fourth and fifth outfielder, screw you. I love it.
I am surprised that he didn't think you in his.
Probably should.
Yeah, 100%. If it wasn't for you, he wouldn't have hit the 100th home run.
That, pretty much. Who knows what would happen? All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. We're getting close to that 1 hour mark, so a lot of rambling from us today. I think
Yeah.
we'll take a break. We'll let our voices cool down now. Recoup, and we'll get ready to talk before the Pirates series on Friday. So thank you, sir, for joining as always, and I wish you a happy 4th of July, but you don't give a crap.
No, it's not our Independence Day. I have no idea what your 4th of July is.
Well, you should just go and grill anyway on the 4th of July, just to be like everyone else here.
Oh, it's all right. But what is it for?
It's Independence Day.
Oh, it is the Independence Day.
Yeah.
Good for me that I knew that. Hopefully you all enjoy your day off.
Well, I'm working.
Yeah, I have the same issue with my work. I don't necessarily have day offs when everyone can celebrate. So only the real heroes do that, Andrew. So good on you.
Amen to that. Amen to that. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to episode number 23 of the Queen's Connection, a production of Patton Sports Grave. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. And make sure to like, subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you Friday before the start of a series against the Pittsburgh Pirates.